12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
You're listening to GUFON Radio with Rich Giordano.
My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality.
I believe, as do the other folks that were on the flight, that when we visually saw it, that it was something not from this world.
GUFON Radio.
You were either in or you were either out, brother.
But the cream rise to the top. Oh, yeah.
GUFON Radio with Rich Giordano.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
GUFON Radio.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
You're listening to GUFON Radio with Rich Giordano.
All right. Welcome to GUFON, everybody. I'm your host, Rich Giordano, and it is a little bit after the hour. Sorry, we are having a little bit of technical video difficulties, and our guest is trying to get that fixed. So while we wait for that, I want to thank you all to the new GUFON. So, the new GUFON, no more jokes. Yeah, all that's over. Last night we had a little incident with this guy. But here it is. The spoon was right in front of me the whole time. This piece is really thin, and it was underneath the front of the keyboard, while this piece, the scooper, was turned in such a way, and the microphone here, that I couldn't see it when I lifted up the keyboard and just looked, like, where the hell could it be? And it was there. When I got done editing last night's show, I had moved the keyboard out of the way like I usually do, and I heard it go over something. I'm like, what is this? So, yeah, this is an ice cream snowball. I don't like it. No, I don't. I want to get the Yeti mic, the Yeti, or if anybody knows of another brand that is less than $1,000. I think our guest is coming here tonight. It will be Dr. J from Dr. J Radio. COVID. I see him trying to make it here, but it's just a white box. So we have a white box. We'll wait for him to get that set up, maybe, because if we can't, then we're just gonna do the interview or the show with the box. You understand? Dr. J in a box. That's what we're going to do. I said no jokes. I can't help it. I don't know why that's funny. Dr. J in a box. It made me laugh. Forgive me, Father, for I have broken the new sin. No jokes. Why is everything blurry? What happened? What happened? It's going to adjust. Hold on. Is it me? It's blurry. What happened? All right. Well, let's see if Dr. J can hear us.
Yeah.
Dr. J. Oh, there he is. All right.
I can hear you. Can you see me finally? Or am I in
No,
a box?
you are.
A gun. I'm in a box. Beautiful.
You're a man in a box. Well, I don't know why that made me laugh. I'm so stupid. But I'm glad you're here.
I'm so sad too because I set everything up behind me. I got this cool, UFO testers models. I mean, I'm all set here and you can't see me. What a shame.
How could that be?
I have no idea. I've been messing with this for 25 minutes at least. Anyhow,
but if we can see the box, we should be able to see you.
I agree. And when I click on my own camera, I could see myself. So it makes no sense. And everything else I would be using the camera is off too. That is weird. And I don't even know where my avatar went now. Let's see if I could change that at least.
All right.
I can grab that at a minimum. So something's better than nothing.
I have this is a setting I have. It says, if I click on this, it says, show an avatar when a user's camera is off. So if you turn your camera off, it would just show an avatar. And then it says, uncheck this if you want users to be completely hidden when their camera is off. No. So I leave it on. I see Dr. J in the yeah, it's on your end, man. That's weird.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
I've never heard of that before.
I am saddened by it.
That's all right. You're here.
Okay. Yeah. That's the important part.
It's totally all right. It looks great, by the way. You look fantastic. I haven't seen you look this good since 1985. Oh, all right. So it's going to be great because I was told you're like an insider type of guy. Like you talk to everybody in this field. So what I'm interested in, and I want to know, why, how, who did you know to know all these people? How did that happen?
Well, I guess I can go back to, it was just 1984 when I saw a craft. Even before that, I somehow believed in UFOs. I paid attention to every UFO magazine, book, TV show, documentary, etc.
Just like me.
Yeah. And so I don't know what it was. I finished law school in 2010, December 2010. And in 2012, I decided all of a sudden, I said, why don't I see if there's any of these, UFO conferences? I've never been to one. And it just so happened to be that the Conscious Life Expo was happening. So I went there and that's where I met people that I'd seen. I remember seeing Travis Walton, Yvonne Smith, Dr. Roger Lear, Linda Moulton Howe, all the people that I'd seen on TV and read about. And I told them, hey, I used to produce concerts, raves years ago. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but can I get your contact? Now, most of them didn't give it to me, of course. I was, who the hell am I? So let's fast forward a couple months. Now, by this point, may I add you, I had been watching Third Phase of the Moon. I was so enamored with that channel. I mean, every single day I was glued. What are they posting next? I would share it to all my friends. I mean, I was blown away. And then I remember the Robert Bingham video came up where it was an interview, and I was saddened that I'd missed the event because I'd been studying for the bar at that point. Then I remember the next event came and I decided to go. And there was about 50 people there because Third Phase of the Moon, promoted it. And so then I remember they sent Bill Graham out to record it. And so that's when I first learned they were in Hawaii. And I actually saw something. There was the two orbs and I filmed them. So that night I went and I contacted them through Skype. I sent them over the video that I caught of Robert Bingham's event, which actually was also included Bill Graham filming me. And so we stayed in touch. Then I started going to Robert Bingham's events. And then we decided to do a documentary. And first, before we started to do this documentary, Blake and Brent asked me if I knew somebody in the field that I could reach out to bring them for an interview. And so I started to reach out to everyone. Everybody said no. Stanton Friedman, Travis Walton, Linda Moulton Howe, Dr. Greer. I mean, I was very persistent, but it only took one. Dr. Roger Lear finally said yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. So I got them an interview with Dr. Lear. And I remember that I was so happy. I didn't care that I wasn't part of the interview. I was just happy that I was able to write some questions for them to ask. Because when I went to see Travis Walton at Conscious Life Expo, at the very end, I had a question for him. I said, most people who were abducted usually have more than one abduction. Did you ever have another abduction following your abduction in the 70s? His answer was no. And I was so frustrated that I'd spent all that money and time and got a one-word answer. So because that one person said yes, Roger Lear, then I went back to Stanton Friedman, who said no. I said, hey, Roger Lear said yes. Would you do Third Phase of the Moon? And then so I just went on from there for building the rest. And then that following March, I went to the UFO Congress. And by that point, I'd met the people from Revolution Radio.
Wait, what year is this?
We're talking 2013 now. So 2012, I'm working with Third Phase of the Moon. I'm getting them, interviews to do, on Skype with the guests. Then I go to UFO Congress in 2013. By that point, I had met the people from Revolution Radio. And because I had gotten all these people for Blake and Brent, and I decided I wanted to start talking to them more for longer periods of time, then I decided to do a show, and working out with them, they said, hey, why don't I call Third Phase of the Moon Radio? And they even created an opening for me. And basically that's how it started and eventually evolved to Dr. J Radio Live.
And when did that start officially?
Well, again, Third Phase of the Moon Radio, hosted by yours truly with Preston Dennett, started in March 2013. And it was later that year that I changed it to Researchers on a Mission, Rome, which was the same company I had when I produced Raves back in the late 90s, which was Ravers on a Mission. I just changed Ravers to Researchers. I could use the same logo. But then trying to catch social media, because I had never been involved in social media, the only name I can get which would be the same all the way across, was Dr. J Radio Live. Dr. J Radio, Dr. J Live was taken in some aspects. So essentially that's how it happened. And part of it was because I had been following these people for, 30 years at that point. And I literally knew everything about them. So every time I would interview one of them, and then I went to the next person and I told them who I'd interviewed, it was just easy for the next person to say yes. And honestly, I can say not very many have said no. The only person I could tell you that has said no so far was George Bush. And I'm not kidding about that either.
Well, good for you though. So what? Nobody's that special. You can't ask.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, they're just people.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Hey, they put their pants on one foot at a time as we do.
That's weird.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. So wait, now I want to go back because you were going to be a lawyer.
Yes. Yes.
Why? What happened there? Can you tell, or do you not want to
No,
say?
no, I absolutely can't tell. I honestly I have to say, after going to that Robert Bingham event and connecting with Blake and Brent, it's just, I saw a calling that I felt the need to be involved with them.
Oh
and to
my
be involved
God.
with ufology. It's like I had an epiphany that year. And now here we are, 8 years later. I'm not practicing law. I have this JD, a Juris Doctorate, paid a lot of money for it, still have a lot of money in student loans, but yet I feel happier here. And I guess that's the most important thing. Can you live with yourself, and are you happy?
Are you going to answer? Are
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
I'm joking.
Absolutely.
I'm busting chops. No, but you know what I like is that you don't seem to be afraid to say what's on your mind. Although I don't think you and I are going to agree on everything in this conversation, and that's fine because nobody in this field agrees anyway with everything we all say. But do you love TTSA or do you not love? I mean, what is going on with them?
Honestly, Tom DeLonge was an asshole, and I hope he doesn't. Well, whether he hears it or not, he
listens.
I called him, and he went to someone that Blake and Brent also know, which I went out to interview for them to film, which was Fausto Perez. And so he gave me his phone number, and I just cold called him and told him who I was and wanted to book him. He was just a straight up asshole. And so,
really?
yeah. And I have to say, from other sources, they're not that happy. And now this is people that won't say it publicly, and I don't want to out them, but they're not that happy with the direction that they're going. Mostly because it's comprised of people who were involved in intelligence and counterintelligence. So are we being really told the truth, or is it just another smokescreen?
Right.
I do know that Linda Moulton Howe, going back, actually, Art Bell received some alien metal, apparently, from an anonymous listener. And he gave it to Linda Moulton Howe to research. She went on and sold it to Tom DeLonge and to the Stars Academy.
Wait, that's not Art's parts?
Well, he gave it to her, and she sold it. No, it's not. He hasn't been in the family at least for 20 some years at least. It was in the 90s when it happened.
Yeah, I know. So this is Art Bell. These medals that he found?
He didn't find them.
Somebody gave
them and mailed them to him. Yes.
And that's what, then he gave it to Linda?
He gave it to Linda so she could research, and because, he was just a host, and she sat on them for a number of years. I don't know why, because, she makes a sizable enough income where she probably could investigate it. And honestly, I don't know why she never brought it up to me. And I'm sure Blake and Brent would have loved to, look into it. And yet, all of a sudden, all I find out later down the line, not even from Art Bell, I found this out from Linda after it was sold to to the Stars Academy.
So what? Go ahead. Yeah. What happened after she sold it?
That's all I know. Apparently,
okay.
Tom DeLonge went on and made the rounds on One American News Network, CNN, etc. If you remember, several months ago, saying that he now has official evidence of UFO extraterrestrial metal, and that he was going to have it analyzed and will release the findings later this year. Right. Now, things have been slowed down, as you know, and I hate to use the so-called C word, which I won't. Because that will probably shut this down, as it always does for me. And so that could be the reason why it's been stalled. But apparently, I know there's been pictures of it. I mean, it looks really tiny, as a matter of fact, almost microscopic. Apparently it's composed of like aluminum in ratios that we cannot make here. But I don't know enough about it where I can comment it, because I wish I had it myself, and I wish I actually, had it analyzed, and better yet, had a scientist analyze it. The closest stuff, though, is when Third Phase of Moon, Blake and Brent Cousins and I did alien or Alien Human Project with Dr. Roger Lear, and he showed us the implants that were
Oh,
removed.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, those were fantastic. That was amazing to actually hold them and see them, and then to be present at the 17th surgery removal was actually more crazy because to remember, I remember when Dr. Lear went to cut the person who had the implant seemed to move. It's like it almost knew it was going to be removed, and when it finally came out of the person, it's like it shut off. I remember that was what Dr. Lear told me. And he also said that each time he's removing them, and again, that he's passed, that if whatever reason, they seem to be stuck onto the person's tissue and bone more so than other things, other foreign objects. And here's the crazy part. He also said, and this was confirmed by a couple laboratories that did looked at them, the implants, and analyzed them, that they actually made non-magnetic things magnetic. How could that be? Human bone that was close to these implants would all of a sudden be magnetic while they were in the person's body. Again, when they were removed, it's like because they fed off of the energy from us, the electricity running in our body. When they were removed, they shut down, and that's when the magnetism stops. I thought that was one of the weirdest anomalies.
Is that something we could find and it's documented as legit?
Here's the sad part.
Oh no.
After Roger Lear died, people literally skipped town with his implants. And
you gotta be kidding me.
No joke. No joke.
Unbelievable.
There were 17 implants, and one of the people that we'd interviewed for the Alien Human Project took the majority of them, and some damning information came out afterwards about him, and so he's gone with the wind. The last implant that was left was with the Lear family, and I had reached out to them a few years ago to see if we can have it analyzed, and I never heard back from them. But it's really sad. I mean, 17 things are floating around, and where are they? Probably being sold on eBay or sitting in someone's closet or whatever it is.
Can I say something? At that 17, I remember that, and I remember watching it on video somewhere when he did it. I don't know if it was on a documentary or what.
Watchers or Patient 17.
Oh, then it must have been Patient 17, yeah. Well, I thought when he went to go after it, it was just the fat and stuff around it that moved it. So because that's what was in between, the object and the knife or whatever it was he was looking to pull it out with, the tweezers. And every time he went in there, it's like the liquid just pushed it around. I didn't think it was moving around. See, that always bugged me.
He said that we're not talking about moving, several inches or a foot.
No.
We're talking about small areas, but he would literally stop the surgery. The cameras would stop, and then they would have to resume. What should have been a 5-10 minute procedure ended up taking over an hour.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't remember it taking that long.
Here's another crazy thing is when the Watchers guys, which was Richard Shaw and L.A. Marzulli, had that implant analyzed, they found that it was sending signals consistent with deep space. Now,
that's crazy,
isn't it? Who the hell is receiving these signals in deep space? Is it, us? Is it the secret space program?
Deep space. You're not just saying around the Earth. You're saying deep. That's crazy.
Yes.
Look how small that is. How could that happen?
I know, right? And I originally thought back when I first heard about these implants that they're just tracking devices. Now, we know that is the simplest stuff to have. They're all over. Look at our smartphones nowadays.
Yeah.
I know now that these implants have to do far more with tracking. As a matter of fact, Whitley Strieber told me that when he had his removed, it didn't matter. They still could find them. Several people that were abducted that had them removed all of a sudden said they were still being taken. So apparently they're not for tracking. Maybe they're for capturing our senses or what.
It would have to be. They're just monitoring our body maybe they know everything we're doing, man. That's what I think. I think we're all tracked somehow.
Yeah.
From birth or before. I don't know. I think everybody is visited. Everybody has abduction experiences, but nobody remembers it. I think everybody's abducted. I think that's why the aliens are still here, because there's so many people, a lot to do, and they probably just left a team here and they monitor everything we do. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out, but have you ever thought about that? Like, how many people? There's a lot of abductees out there.
There are. And, I remember when I first heard the number that it was approximately 1 in 40 people. And I thought that's way, way too many. I was like, are you kidding me? And
Really?
I remember when Preston Dennett polled 40 people that he knew, he said that seemed very consistent with that number. Now,
wow.
That's assuming that those 1 in 40 people have been regressed or remembered. Well, what about the other 39, like you said? Very well. I don't know what my subconscious doesn't know. I don't know if I've ever been visited at night. I can tell you consciously, I've never had any paranormal experience like that. I mean, I saw, what looked like an upside down sport model, a few thousand feet in the air, 35 years ago. But
wow.
Other than that, I've never had any paranormal experience.
No dreams of alien abductions or seeing them? Anything?
Nothing.
Wow,
I mean, I wish I did. Yeah, I kind of wish I did. I wanted to Skinny Bob to visit me, but never happened.
I had a Chubby Bob visit me. It was a small little one, but it was a dream. I call it a dream because that's what I think it might have been. I actually woke up with the beam being shot in my ear. It was the pain from it, and I looked up when I woke up, and I saw a bluish white light on the headboard. And as I go to turn around, I saw the beam retract into a 3-foot bluish greenish alien. The skin kind of like, I don't know how to say it. It's like that paint you could walk by on a car and it changes color with the sun. It was like that. That's how I remembered it. I looked down at my wife and my dog to see if they were awake. Are you witnessing this? I'm thinking. I turned around and it wasn't there. And then I turned on all the lights, took the dog out for a walk, and there were 3 grass circles out front, like crop circles, real small ones.
Wow. You know what?
I got pictures. I still got the pictures of it. Yeah.
I would love to see that. And I got to tell you, is talking to a lot of these people that have been taken, it normally starts as dreams. It's not like, for instance, almost everybody doesn't have conscious recall, right? It'll be like years or even decades later. They'll have a little dream here and there, and then more will unlock. I'll give you an example. Robert Salas. You remember the what was the base? It was a base in Montana where they shut down. A UFO came and shut down 9 of the ICBMs.
Sure, I know that case.
Maelstrom Air Force Base.
Okay, yeah.
And his latest book, which he wrote, I think 6 years ago, he finally revealed that he had been abducted in the 80s. And to him, same thing happened. He didn't remember it until years later. It started as small memories. About 5, 7, 10 years later, he remembered waking up to seeing a cloaked figure in his room. And then he remembered another dream that he was floating off his bed and he was heading towards his window. And the thought that he had was, they're not going to get me out the window. I have grill on the window, bars on the window. And then he remembered all of a sudden, feeling the air as if he was outside. He couldn't move. And then the next memory comes in another dream where he is inside a craft and he's being analyzed. The next dream comes where he remembers a pain being experienced in his groin area from a needle being stuck down there. And then he remembers glimpsing over to another area of the craft, seeing his wife sitting on the floor. And this is the weirdest part. She's playing like some psychic game. And the way he described it essentially was like those little kids blocks with the letters on them, that she was basically floating them with her hands, kind of like the Matrix.
Oh my, yeah.
Weird stuff like that. Now, again, how you can corroborate this, I don't know. I mean, it was only one chapter in his book, and I was blown away when I first heard that from him in an interview because, he only saved it for the last 5 minutes. I was like, wait a minute, I want to know more. But he only said that, and then he sort of disappeared.
Well, I had a dream very similar. I was taken somewhere, and it looked like Phoenix, Arizona in the year 3000. I could see the tips of the mountains that I know, but they were covered by sand and stuff, and you see some buildings, but went down in an elevator shaft, and somebody told me this was probably, I can't remember the place that's in the mountains, but anyway, I went underground to level 4, which was a purple level, and I saw, like, if you ever been to a racquetball club and you can look down at the racquetball players from above and you can watch them play. Well, I was walking along this corridor and looking down to the right and the left, and these hybrid looking kids were doing what you just said, doing, moving stuff. And then there were some tones, and I would hear these tones, and they would switch rooms and go to different rooms. And next thing you know, there was a couple of loud tones, and we all had to leave. So I don't know what that was about, but I was underground. What is that one place? Dolce?
Dulce.
Yeah, that's
exactly
what they said.
I was gonna say. I've read a lot about that. There was someone I interviewed who interviewed a colonel who remained anonymous to this day. Apparently, the name will not be released until he passes. And it talk about when they first found the base, and essentially on the first level, this happened in during the Manhattan Project. They were looking for a place to test, to build a nuclear weapon.
Right.
And apparently they had found a cavern. And as they went in further down along these caves, they said they found skeletons wearing cowboy clothes on one side. And this is the crazy part. On the same side with the cowboys were the Indians. They were both fighting side by side. On the other side were small little gray skeletons. The next room they got to, this is crazy. This is, again, mind you, late 30s, early 40s. Yeah, they literally see these paper-thin screens with a glowing purple light. And then the next room, it gets even crazier than that. They find artifacts from around the world from different eras. We're talking from ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, you name it. And they're all, how are they in Dulce, New Mexico? And apparently each level down gets crazier. Apparently, we're not allowed in levels 5 and 6. Level 4 is where the humans are allowed to go as low, and that's also where the ETs are. Isn't it
That's
bizarre?
so weird. How did I maybe subconsciously, but I had that dream many years ago.
And
that's crazy.
I wouldn't. That's so. I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being the case. Now, could it just be a dream? Absolutely. Could it be somewhere else? Absolutely. But you mentioned level 4, and that's when it really stuck out to me. It was like, wait a second. Level 4 are where the hybrids are created. Level 4 are where the humans can go, and also the ETs can go. And so I really thought that. And I started to think more that, after listening to Commander Fravor on a recent podcast he did, he was asked, do they think they're from here? And he said, well, if they're not from here, if let's just say they want to hide out on this planet, he said, what else better place to hide than the ocean? 2/3 of the world is being, is unexplored for the most part. We can't go to the bottom of the ocean. You sure as hell can't go down to the Mariana Trench. What if that's where they are?
Right.
Yeah.
Why not? There could be city down there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going to take a matter of time for our science to catch up where we can actually get technology to get down there. But the rate of our technology is increasing so drastically fast. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a matter of decades. Now, if Bob Lazar story really happened, and I tend to believe him. I really do.
Okay.
I'm just watching him over the years. His stories remain so consistent. I know another one of his favorite things that he says is that if this was a lie, wouldn't he come up with a better lie? And another thing, apparently, he doesn't take any money from this. He considers it dirty money. He donates it to schools, and he turns down a lot of interviews. Now, I was lucky enough to see him in 2015 at the UFO Congress. They got him for the 25th anniversary, and he tried to pull out, and they threatened to sue him, and that's why he showed up, which is something he said in that. Unfortunately, I don't know why Open Minds took down that video off YouTube. Because it was a great interview that George Knapp did with him, but it's down for whatever reason, probably so they could sell it to you on their website.
Yeah, probably free for a bit. National in the archives. Yeah, that is interesting. You know, people talk about dreams, and then there's some sort of reality mixed in with this, which may be that, you know, the implants or however they monitor us, it could trigger something when we sleep, and we just happen to remember things, I think, and it just looks like a dream or it's reality. That's what's so weird about it. When I was going down in that dream, I was touching the concrete wall on the way down and feeling the paint, you know, from different levels. I mean, it's just so real. I'm sorry you're not dreaming these things.
I know, I know. I really wish I was too. And you know what? Hey, maybe at some point I will, because I don't know why I've had an obsession. Honestly, it's more than an interest to me. It has been an obsession since I was a kid. I don't know why I even knew this, but when I was first taken to Sunday school and first taught about Jesus and God and the story of the Virgin Mary, I don't know why, but I blurted out that Jesus was an alien. Now, this is long before I knew things about hybrid. Now I might change the story to say he's more of a hybrid. But for some reason, my young mind at age 4 said he's an alien. And it just goes back to this obsession where I remember the first job I had at age 11. The very first thing I did was I saw an advertisement, LA Times, from a guy who was basically videotaping unsolved mysteries, sightings, and all those shows, and whatever documentary appeared on TV. This is before, obviously, the internet. You know, we're talking 1991, 1990, that era. And so I would meet with him every weekend after work and buy his videos until I bought every single video he had. And that's how it ended up to where I spent all my money at that point because I was that interested.
Who haven't you interviewed that you would like to interview?
Well, aside from the president, I know Lue Elizondo said yes last year, but then because I couldn't meet the date and it was supposed to be to promote the show, I was supposed to do it this year, but because of the shutdown, that sort of changed.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a no. That was just a reschedule. So he's coming. Neil deGrasse Tyson is someone that I haven't interviewed yet, but that is someone that I booked for Art Bell. And so because I had Michio Kaku on, I would think that would give me the credibility for Neil deGrasse Tyson to say yes to me.
Oh, Michio Kaku. Yeah, I remember that, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't that just recent?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I played it here.
Yeah.
Without permission. Sorry.
That's okay.
Third Phase says they would cover it. No,
they definitely used it, and that was great, because it was something that definitely I wanted to share. And, every time I do something that they like, absolutely, I always love to share with them, and they take a portion and send a link to people to hear the whole thing, because they tend to use about 20 to 30 minutes of, which is fine by me, because if people want to hear the whole 2-hour interview or 1 hour, whatever I have, then they can come on and hear it with me.
So what's next for ufology? Where are we? What is this? I feel like it's gone crazy in my mind. I think people are expecting disclosure to happen any day, and I just don't see that happening. But do you have anything you could tell us about what you heard? Anything going on?
Well, I'm with you on that. Disclosure will never happen the way people think it's going to happen. You are not going to have you're literally not going to have the president or anybody in power step out and say, hey, just so you know, we've been visited by aliens. We have technology. They've been here long before us. But who's got an American? Let's check out American Idol tomorrow. And just so you know, we'll be lying to you. Never going to happen. And there's just too much too much lying that's been going on. And, you have Project, at the time, Project Sign, Grudge, Blue Book. And if you remember the way Project Blue Book kind of ended the last 3 years, they took the unsolved cases and all of a sudden they just decided to put them in the solved category. Very weird, right? It was just totally a political move to shut it down. So it went from 1,000 cases the year before to 3 the next year, 2 the year after that. And then in 69, it was 1. And then they said, oh, it's not enough, so we'll just shut it down.
Yeah.
We, of course, now know that, of course, it kept going with different names. And then after ATIP closed, and then OSAP, and Lord knows what it is now. I don't think we're ever going to find out that way. I think the only way it's going to come about is by people talking about it. Now, we're fortunate enough to be in an era where we seem to be, with enough technology, we're able to capture things that normally we wouldn't see. Things like FLIR, right? We didn't have it decades ago. And now it seems that we're being observed far more. I mean, I know there's a record number of sightings more than ever. And I also know that the recent poll, a Gallup poll, said that 69% of people, or 68% of people believe that we are not alone in the universe.
Yeah.
And so this generation is far more open to people that, of course, are, believing in this. And if you ask children, they absolutely believe, because we have so many Goldilocks planets. So I think the only way it's going to come about, I don't see saucers landing on the White House lawn or anything like that. I think it's just going to continue clandestinely until 100% of people say, hey, I've been visited, or I saw this. And you see more people like Commander Fravor come out. And to me, I'll tell you this. 2017, when I first saw the Tic Tac video, the gimbal, and the Go Fast, that was disclosure, because Roswell happened. The next day, it turned into weather balloon. Are you telling me that Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer at the only nuclear base in the world, right, or in the United States, could not, or misidentified a flying saucer to a weather balloon? I mean, you got to be a joke. So that's why
I have a theory about that, though.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Well, just a small town at the time, Wait, let me ask you this, because maybe you know more than me. How did the story get out to the press? Did Jesse Marcel call it in? How did it get out that way?
You mean how did
to the paper, in the newspaper?
Okay. Yeah. Apparently, the base officer, the press officer, was told by, I think it was not Ramsey, General. I don't remember the name offhand.
That's all right. Yeah.
But essentially, the Roswell Army Airfield Base commander was told to give the press briefing to the press, and that's what they released. It was only the next day when the wreckage was flown to wherever General Ramsey was, or Ramey. I think it was Ramey, right? That's when he shut it down, when the photo was taken when apparently the materials were swapped out with the tinfoil, and Jesse Marcel was told to pose. Now, speaking to Jesse Marcel's son, before he passed away in 2013, he's told that his father always said that the material was swapped, and he told his father said same thing to Stan Friedman in the 70s when he interviewed him after he located him, which was a weird story of how that came about. But it was this guy, all of a sudden, there was a crash. This guy had held wreckage and it was shut down. Apparently that era, if you lived in a remote part of a desert and you were just coming out of World War II and you were in a military base, and they told you, hey, don't talk about this. This never happened. This is national security. And they wanted you to shut up. You did.
Yeah.
Now, there's enough distrust now where people, I don't think, will stay shut up as anymore as they have been back and then. So that's probably why I think there was enough pressure to release the 3 craft of from the Navy. And I'm sure at some point we'll see more.
Yeah, I don't think those are UFOs at all. Yeah, I think the Go Fast is a bird down at the water. The gimbal is just some craft. Nobody's telling us the truth. They want us to think it's a UFO, maybe a balloon, could be a weather balloon. I don't know. I know it twists a little bit and turns, whatever, but. And then the other one is definitely a jet. I mean, it all looks like that to me. And because it's FLIR video, right? And there's other, 7 minutes or 5 minutes of clear video before they switched on the FLIR, which we'll never see. And we haven't seen the radar. So everything we need to see, we can't. They show us stuff that could be other things. And that to me sounds like the government covering up something. Or why would they say they're UFOs then? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's also weird too. So I don't know, man. I think they showed us bull crap, but there are UFOs, I guess. They just didn't want to show us the real stuff.
Well, I have to say my opinion about that footage is, yeah, you're right. We're only showing the FLIR. We definitely need to see the rest, and we're never going to see it.
No.
But at least when I saw the episode of Ancient Aliens called Element 115, and there was a former aerospace engineer who was downplaying it and said, hey, this gimbal looks like it could be the SR-71. And he said, oh, they can roll and, move in different directions. And then the person who was a movie, not a producer, but he did graphics or CGI.
Special effects, right? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
I remember this, yeah.
So you remember that. And so when he gets to the very end, he goes, well, okay, here's another thing. And in the FLIR, he talks about this glowing light around it. And the aerospace engineer basically says to him, well, is that a camera artifact? And the guy basically continues the rest of the FLIR video and shows that it isn't. It's part of it itself. And that's when they talk about the Alcubierre, I think it's Alcubierre warp bubble, which is essentially the gravity distortion around it. Now, that is a theoretical idea. But if that was the case, if it's consistent with Commander what Fravor said and saw, and if it flew as fast as it did without making a sonic boom, then maybe it is. But how do we know that it's not ours? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I think we've had enough possession of this material where we very well could have these craft. And what if it's just the SR-72? What if it's the B-4? I mean, good. Who knows what it is at this point? It is a UFO as far as unidentified. And you're right. We do need to see the rest, but it definitely exhibits properties that don't seem to be consistent with at least the stuff that we've been known that's unclassified. There's enough classified stuff that it's buried so far up. I don't think any bureaucracy is ever going to fall apart enough for us to get in there. And that's what's so sad about it.
It's really sad, and now that the pilots can come forward and give their reports, who knows where they're going to be archived, okay, great. They'll accept them. And that's nice of them, really, without having to have them fly a desk, as they say. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think, of course, they're hiding stuff from us, but is it ours? Well, it should be. If we had the Roswell craft, well, it could take 100,000 years before we could back engineer it to get that to work again. Who knows? They would have to have similar properties. Everything would have to be so similar to what's here on Earth to back engineer something, don't you think?
Yeah, but what if there is a program that is working with these ETs, or maybe they're not ETs, maybe they are terrestrials that are living on the bottom of the ocean? What if there's something where they're essentially showing us how to build this here or create this on our own? Again, this is all speculation. Who knows? But it very well could be something that we have that's just classified, or maybe it's not. I mean, I have no idea. But you're absolutely right that we all need to see the actual footage. We need to hear from the other pilots. We need to hear from the people on the Nimitz and the Princeton and everybody else who was involved. And all the hundreds or thousands of cases that were caught through Air Force or Navy or Army or in space. I know almost every time an astronaut's been up, or every time they turn on the the footage from the ISS, you see stuff. It's just weird. It doesn't make sense. And so I don't know what. It's just very strange.
I'm a big believer that there are aliens, but we don't see enough. I guess there is enough. You know what, Dr. J? There is. You got people's experiences. You can't dismiss every one of them. Some of them have marks on their bodies, scoop marks, and all sorts of stuff. Weird clothing when they come back home. Reverse pants. I mean, how does that happen if you're sleeping? People are pulling leaves in the trees when they're being abducted into their beds on the way home. You got Fravor talking, you got these crafts zipping around. We've seen UFO footage. I think I have legitimate UFO footage. So now that it's all out there, man, what would be the harm in just saying, all right, they're here. We know they're here. We're just trying to get it all organized, and we're going to make an announcement, I don't know, when we can. I mean, that would be weird. That would throw everybody in an uproar. So you can't even say that, I guess. And right? You can't even say we got something and we'll tell you later. You can't do that.
No, because we're all going to jump and say, show us. We want to know more. And if you recall, Donald Trump Jr. asked his father on camera, when he's going to, what he knows about it. And essentially his father smiled and says that he will release the Roswell. I don't know what that meant. Maybe he meant Area 51. But it suggests that he has been at least briefed. And apparently people like Roger Stone and other people that I've spoken to said he's been briefed twice so far on activity. I don't know if it's apparently there are so many levels above top secret, and the president is only a temporary guest in the White House.
Right.
So the people that would know are people like Lue Elizondo, who spent decades in the DOD, not decades, but however many years.
Yeah.
15, 20 years, lifers basically in intelligence, who signed essentially back then, what was the 10-10 agreement? 10-year, $10,000 fine. I'm sure that's changed. $10,000 is no longer what it used to be in the 60s or 80s even. So, but that's what they normally sign in order to get that. I could tell you another interesting story too. My brother will probably kill me for this. Now, he was always, never believed, even when he was with me, when the 2 times we saw something, which, by the way, were mass sightings. It wasn't just me and him. We're talking the first one, at least 30 people in my proximity. The next one was almost the entire country of Greece, what we saw. Wow. And he works as a private military contractor. And he came back after spending 1 year in Kuwait. And he said, if you get your health in order, I can get you a job working or looking for UFOs. I said, looked at him weird. I said, you don't believe in UFOs. What are you talking about? And he goes on to tell me this story that he worked with, or his roommate was a retired Army general. It does, I guess, once you're a private military contractor, you're making $100,000. It doesn't matter what your position was at some point, as long as you still have your security clearance and you're there. And he basically had the job where he used the most sophisticated equipment, telescopes, etc., satellites, to monitor our UFOs in our solar system. And the irony was, he said every time they would see something, say on the moon, and they would focus the telescope and cameras and satellites to the moon, it's like the ETs or the UFOs would all of a sudden jump to another part of the solar system, like we were playing cat and mouse. And so that to him was enough, where if a 4-star general told him this, who also worked as a PMC, that's when he finally believed that, wait a minute, apparently if I'm working in a program that someone else here is also working, then I do know that it's real. And, there's enough evidence that it can no longer be all BS.
So we only have a few minutes left because we're just doing an hour, right?
Yeah, well, I could get a little more from you, but I do have a couple things I wanted to ask you real quick.
Sure, okay.
What did you think of Countdown to Disclosure?
Well, we can't talk about that.
Well, just an opinion, but not too many details.
It's incredible. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I know.
I can't. Oh my God. I mean, I barely talked to. All I said was there's a documentary that Third Phase is working on. They're working on something big, is what I said. I didn't say what it was yet, but now that you've said it, yeah, they made this incredible documentary. I had a sneak peek on it, and I was actually watching them as they were making it. You know, I'd get a 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you know, and they'd piece it together, and I'd seen the whole work. It's amazing how fast they put that together, and how well it took months, but I mean, to do the whole editing process was nice to see, get a little behind scenes. It's a great movie. People are going to love it. Just freaking love it. Because it's current, it's new.
It really is. And they are such talented filmmakers, and they literally can work so fast. Right. And I told them that if they didn't get discovered by a giant studio, I was going to hunt down Universal or Columbia or any of those giant studios to give them $100 million to start making movies, because they deserve it. They have been making movies for decades, and they are incredible. When I was with them in Hawaii, I had a chance to see some of their really old films. I mean, they are so talented. I mean, at every aspect of it, from the documentaries to the commercials to the editing. Every single thing you see on Third Phase of Moon or any documentary they've made has been phenomenal. And I know this is going to take off.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. Even when I was upset with Third Phase when they first came out in the mid 2000s, and I said, these UFO videos have got to go. And I mean, this is bull crap, I was saying, but they can make a really good film. And then somebody said, well, they are movie make. That's what they do. And I'm like, no wonder why it's so good. And I was bitching and complaining about the stuff they were posting every time. And then I'd say, but they are talented, I got to admit. So that's true. It's fair to say that. And appreciate talent when you see it, even though I didn't agree with what they were posting back then. They're ahead of their time, those two.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've been privy to where I've been around when they received footage, original footage, and then they would, show it to me for the first time and record my reaction. They get so much legitimate footage from people. Now, whether what people are sending them is real or not, I don't know, but there's so much. It all can't be fake. And Richard Doty, a counterintelligence officer, if you remember, he was in the movie Mirage Man. Yeah. He was basically, wrecking people's lives. When I interviewed him, he told me that the reason why he's now talking about UFOs and ETs, and he was really briefed into a program, and he did show Linda Moulton Howe the document which talked about that we've been visited for 10,000 years and so on and so forth. We have technology, we have multiple species, et cetera, et cetera. He said the reason he came out now is because of spending decades of debunking things, of going to UFO events and listening to all the stories and reading. He said, everyone thinks they know everything, but everyone knows half the story and the other half is made up. And yet everyone's ego is so big that they don't connect. I mean, I don't want to knock on my dear friend's grave, Stanton Friedman, but look, he couldn't even look at Bob Lazar about his education, even though there was enough proof from people that said, hey, I was with him at Caltech, or I saw him in the library at MIT, or he worked here at Los Alamos. Nope, didn't matter to him. And I always used to tell Stanton Friedman this myself. I said, look, Stanton, if his high school record was bad and his junior college record was mediocre, how can he get to these top schools? I said, simple. My high school record was terrible. I didn't care. I got to junior college and then I started to care. Well, then when I went to university, I did really well, graduated magna cum laude, and then got into some of the top law schools in the country. I said, it's not that hard to go from Pierce College to MIT or Caltech if you got the brains to do it.
Yeah, but don't you think they would vet for somebody who just got straight A's and is a straight shooter? Bob's a loose cannon. I mean, he's had the brothel and a crazy ex-wife, a relationship. I mean, all sorts of experiments and things. Yeah. This guy was outside he was ahead of his time. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
I mean, he was an inventor.
Many people build jet cars? How many people have particle colliders in their living room or backyard. Not very many people. He's definitely one of those people that is way too smart. If you saw that that documentary when Jeremy Corbell interviewed his mother, and she talked about when he was a young child, and one Sunday morning at 6 a.m. they heard a loud boom, and they go outside to find Bob, put a jet engine on his bicycle. The kid was like 11 or something. Yeah. So, and another thing George Knapp says is if he's lying to people. Okay, but does he lie to his wife? Does he lie to his parents? Does he lie to his close friends? And, apparently those who know him the closest apparently say he doesn't. Now, I don't know him. That's somebody that when you mentioned earlier, people that I would love to get down the line, I would love to speak to Bob Lazar. There are questions that I want to ask him that other people don't ask him. Everybody asks him the same stuff. Oh, tell us what happened at S4. I want to know stuff that he doesn't talk about. What about the experiments that he did? One thing I heard in 2015 was when he first got to S4 and the gravity generator was turned on, his lab partner, Barry, put a candle near the gravity generator. And all of a sudden the flame, was like locked in a time lock. It was literally frozen in time.
Yeah.
Now, that's something you don't hear unless you were at the UFO Congress in 2015 or you got that video. There are so many questions that I would wanted to ask him about things like that. Another thing, if he was briefed with those, how many documents, those, if you remember when he first got to there and he was showing all these briefing documents.
Yeah.
And he was, basically he didn't know if it was real or not. Because apparently if you're working on these classified programs, sometimes they'll embed this crazy stuff. That way, if you talk, then you can go out and they could track you. But he said everything was consistent with what he worked on when he read about Project Galileo, which was the propulsion program. Now, if that was true and everything he read about it was exactly the way it was that he worked on, well, I want to know what was in every other document, because why wouldn't the other ones be true as well? If his was true, if everyone else is reading the same thing.
That's true. That's a good point. You don't, how are we going to know? We're never going to know, right?
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Edward Snowden is another person. I will keep knocking on his door. I haven't gotten a no from him. I keep getting, reach me later.
Okay.
Originally, I sent a letter to him, and this is after he came out, and my friend is Russian. So I had him, translate a letter to Russian and send it to his Russian lawyer, with a letter in English to send to Edward Snowden. And of course, he never responded. But then once I got an email, then of course, that's when I started hearing, contact me later, not at this time, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, I heard you love Ouija boards. What's your take on them?
No. I'm not talking about, I refuse to talk about the Ouija board. I'll tell you though, but I'll no.
Well, I got two in this room and nobody wants to use them. I swear all my friends are just they want to stay away from it. And I can't anymore. Alone.
Look, I tried to make contact with the devil 125 times because I was tired of people just, I'm going to try to contact this, that, my aunt and uncle and whatever. I specifically made a call out for Satan, and I wanted to give him a deal. I wanted to cut a deal with Satan. Now, I want money. I don't care about fame. All I wanted was just get me a lucrative something and you can have my soul. I hate this life. I just need money. That's all I need. I'll be fine. You can get doctors. You can get women if you want. You can buy all the food you need, the cars you want. Money's the king of everything. Anyway, that's how I feel. But, and I'm happy by myself. So I don't need that much, right? So I said, look, man, and I had recorders going and all this stuff, like 2 audio recorders plus the 3 cameras going and candles, the whole 9. And didn't catch anything, believe it or not. On the only EVPs I got was like a pig snarl, like one of those. And I heard what sounded like somebody at a restaurant carrying a rack of dishes and putting them down. So that's the only thing I got. So not knowing, anything happened, one day, I don't want to get in. Let's just say I had a spiritual attack twice. That's what people are talking about. Yeah. It's a long story. I don't want to tell
I've
it.
heard that. Yeah, no worries. I've heard that from other people, and I've kind of wanted to see if something like that would happen or something positive. I've never had any experience whatsoever. Either ETs and ghosts don't love me or something, but I keep trying and I'm not reaching them. But if I had a chance, like you said, to make a deal down there, I would try too. You're right. Money is king. That is the ruler of this planet. Literally, it's the ruler of this planet. You got money, you can buy whatever the hell you want.
Anything you want. It's true.
Yeah.
And, so nothing happened, just to button it up. But I denounced the devil one day. I found a little cross my mother gave me when I got communion at 13, and I found it, and I thought I lost it all these years, almost 40 years. Oh my God, here it is. So I go, this has got to be a sign. So I said, devil, you didn't do shit for me. So you're done. I'm putting on the cross. I put it around my neck, and I said a little Our Father thing, and whatever. And a day later, I started having this weird tickle in my throat, which turned out I had to go to the hospital. It was spasming so much. My throat, I would throw up for like 3 days straight. I went to the emergency room. They thought maybe I was having a heart attack. So she wanted to get an ambulance for me. I said, no, I'll drive myself down there. I'm fine. I didn't want to pay. I don't have insurance. So I drove myself to the hospital. They took x-rays of my throat and, my back and everything, the whole upper body. And the doctor comes in an hour later and he's like, do you practice in magic? And I go, man, I look at my parents came. It was Father's Day. So my parents were there. And I called them, I'm going to the hospital, meet me there. So they were there with me. And I look at my parents and I go, why would you ask that? He goes, well, people who have what happened to you, I would think maybe you were practicing magic, like sword swallowing. My mother goes, what's the matter? And he goes, well, your esophagus is bruised from top to bottom. Ooh. And he says, and he put the x-ray up, he goes, if these dark areas, if they were in color, it would be bright purple and blue. That's a severe bruising, and your esophagus is spasming, which is giving you the feeling that you have to throw up. And I said, could it have been from the Taco Bell? Like a taco got stuck in my, and he goes, no, not even close. He said, it's your whole esophagus. Like you were choked, like I was or I put a sword in my throat. He thought I was practicing sword swallowing.
Wow.
He said, he says he never seen anything like it.
Yeah, that is definitely something that will never want me to go there again.
So, yeah. And then something happened early, a while ago. And one thing I never did, out of all those 125 times with the Ouija board, I never said goodbye. I never closed the portal. So supposedly all these spirits and angry gods were coming after me. So, it's an interesting story. It wasn't my idea that it was a spiritual attack. It was someone else's, because it all made sense, because that's what they're into, all that stuff. I'm more into aliens and UFOs. So they're like, oh no, you had a spiritual attack. And then I said, okay, I'm never going to talk about the Ouija board again. I made a promise. And one night I was talking about it, and I started feeling sick, and the same experience started happening to me. I go, wait a minute. I was already on the bathroom floor. This is like a year or so later. I was already on the bathroom floor from throwing up. And I said, no, I know exactly what this is. I talk shit about the Ouija board. I played with it, acted like it was a server tray for a restaurant. I was making fun with it. And I said, okay, here's the deal. And I got on my knees in the bathroom and I said, I promise you, I will never, ever talk shit about the Ouija board again. I swear to God, I won't. Just please, I can't be sick. I need to work. Just end this, please. And I promise you, I will never disrespect the Ouija board again, ever. And 30 seconds goes by, and I was freezing at the time and everything. I was like really almost in the point of like convulsion. I was so cold. I started getting warm. immediately, and I felt it. It was coming from the inside of my body and going outward. So I start feeling good after like 30 seconds. Now I haven't eaten for 2 days. I go sit down on the couch and I'm starting to feel pretty good. 30 minutes later, I was having spaghetti.
Wow. You know what? It very well. If you let those portals open, and if it is what people say it is, because I've heard that from multiple ghost hunters, that you have to close the portals if you open them. And if you were disrespecting it, and that's, if you had such weird anomaly of your entire esophagus being bruised to the point where it looked like you swallowed a sword multiple times, then maybe some spirits were attached to you or trying to get to you. Now that's going to make me think twice of what I do with it next. That's for sure.
Well, in the chat room, somebody, Mr. DB Cooper, a big fan of the show. Thanks for the super chats. He says, Rich, but at the same time, I think you have to let it affect you. You got to open yourself up to it. He says, I've rolled weed on Ouija boards, bro. And I'm like, you know what? I wasn't thinking about the Ouija board when I got sick. Okay. I didn't think it was the Ouija board ever. Somebody else did. So the second time it happened after being sick for 2 days, I recognized this feeling. Maybe it's because I disrespected the Ouija board 2 nights ago. So I had nothing to lose. So I tried praying, and making a deal with it. It's stupid. I know. I feel stupid saying it. What do you want from me? I'm just here. I don't know.
Well, the anomaly, here's the crazy part, is this thing was marketed for children. Isn't
right?
That
8 years old.
I know. This is what, age 8 to 88 or 9 to 99. It's just weird how it's, Parker Brothers released it to children. I remember when I was in elementary school, 8th grade, and the girls of the 8th grade were having a slumber party, and they played with the Ouija board, and something happened where all of a sudden their door slammed and they couldn't get out the room. They were screaming. The parents were coming and they couldn't open the door for several minutes. And then all of a sudden, parents twisted again, opens, and the girls run out screaming. And the next day, next week, the next month, it's all they talked about. And that's when I really wanted to see what they could do. Yeah.
Don't. I'm telling you. Look, I don't believe in it still, but just in case, don't. Just let it be. Just enjoy the view. That's all I can say, man. Just enjoy that you have it.
Apparently, some things are best left for us not to go there.
Look, I would never thought I would tell anybody not to do that. I mean, you're an adult. You can do it if you want. I did, and everybody warned me. And look what happened. And I wasn't even thinking Ouija board. I'm thinking I swallowed a taco, or I must have done. It must be because I kept trying to make myself throw up because that's all I wanted to do. And he says, nah, you can't be bruised all the way inside your body from your fingers. I'm like, I know. But anyway, stay away from those things. Treat them with respect.
Yeah.
At least the Ouija board,
Yeah, that's for sure. Definitely. And it's more than that. All the divination devices, you have tarot cards, you have a lot of things that apparently can open the portals to. There you go. Yeah. I got
right in front of me, just in case.
Yeah. I don't know how to read offhand without the book. I need to have a book so I could read everything.
That's how I started. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are quite a few things. The mirror. What about the black mirror? Have you ever tried that?
Nah, no, I don't have a mirror like a black mirror, but I'm not too sure I buy into that. I think that's just because of the reflection value of a mirror. People think, many, many doors are opening, especially if you have 2 of them.
Well, like that story from the olden times when women would look down wells and look at the reflection to see what the reflection showed. And again, you're looking at water that's either moving or it's just a reflection. Your eyes can play tricks, and
totally.
And the way you approached your esophagus problem, thinking it was a Taco Bell or something, that just shows you're human. You're trying to rationalize it, because that's what we need to do. We can't just jump to paranormal and spiritual. We have to go through each step and go through logic, and before you make that leap to say, oh nope, it's this, because a lot of people who do that end up being discredited. I'm not talking about you or myself or any of our friends. I'm talking about some of the speakers out there. I don't want to out anybody. I'll tell you one, like Daryl Sims, somebody who I interviewed. He went around parading with the implant, right?
Yeah.
Well, turns out Roger Lear said it was a piece of
Glass.
sand or something.
Yeah.
It was just crap, a little piece of metal that he found in his garage and put it in a vial and went around on TV shows and got lots of money. Well, that's what people, how they shoot themselves in the foot to get the 5 minutes of fame and that 10 grand.
Hey, let me ask you, because I wanted to ask you a few minutes ago, and we went off on my Ouija board and thing. Do you pay attention to Skinwalker Ranch? I know you do.
Yes. Oh God, yes. I am so enthralled by that story. That is way bizarre. I would love to speak to Brendan Frugal, the current owner.
Yeah. Well, he just said he got called away to the ranch the other day, and there was something very important they had to go over. Something happened.
Well, I mean, that's the one place where, I mean, apparently there are more than that on this earth.
Yeah.
But that's the one that we know of that's been documented where, multiple people have seen structured craft, have seen these, predator-like invisible creatures, have seen these giant wolves from another era, hear disemboweled voices in their head that are speaking in other languages. I don't think I could spend a night there. I'm sorry. And I know at the UFO Congress that just happened, which was, a BS Zoom event or whatever, how they did it. They actually had, one of the security guards from the Skinwalker is, I forget his real name, but his code name is Dragon. If you went on the website, you could see, but he spoke at that. I would love to hear what he said about it. But yeah, that one place is freaky as hell to me.
Dragon's a cool guy.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him at some point. But again, I want to get to the top. I know Bigelow sold it. I don't know what his records really show. I do know that he passed them down to Frugal. But I know George Knapp couldn't even get access to them. And yet George Knapp was one of the few people that was allowed to go on there and record. And then that's when Jeremy went on there. But they were only exposed to what they told and interviewed the people. But the most classified stuff stayed with Bigelow. And apparently what he learned was enough for him to go off. And if you remember that 60 Minutes interview he did, when they asked him if he believes in UFOs or ETs, and he basically says they're right under your nose. And they basically said, "Are you afraid of what people might think of you?" And he goes, "I don't give a damn." If you remember that, he was very serious.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And George Knapp said on Joe Rogan when he was on that he believes that Bigelow has access to at least one craft in his hangar, whether it be he took over EG&G or S4 is what he now has access to. I don't know, but he apparently has access to some of this extraterrestrial material and possibly a full craft.
See, I think Brandon Fugel got there, and I think Bigelow took everything that was of value. That, like maybe sacred artifacts they were found, and who knows where. You know what I mean? I think that place is really filled with a lot of weird stuff. The evidence I've seen, it's interesting, but still not definitive proof. But yeah, I'm like you. If I want to go there. And because out here we have the Stardust Ranch, that guy who claimed he would kill aliens with his samurai sword. He chopped the head off and they disappear.
No, where?
No? Oh my God!
Where's the Stardust Ranch?
It's here in Arizona.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, you got to have this guy. You got to interview him. He's fun.
Yes.
I don't know if he's doing them anymore, but I can't remember his name. Guys, can you look that up real quick in the chat room? See who owns the Stardust. I was just down there during the, while we were in lockdown.
Yes.
And I drove down there and I did a, drive-by video, took pictures and everything. And I said, wow, if I only had a drone, I could launch it right here. That's what made me go buy a drone.
That would be cool. That would be really cool to fly that over there. So he literally talked about taking samurai swords and chopping ET's heads off and they would disappear.
He's killed, I think, 19, something like that. Wow. Yeah, and they just disintegrate. And the guy said his wife was getting attacked. There was supposed marks on her and just a lot of weird things. And I who went there? I think Ghost Adventures crew went there and did a ghost hunt / whatever hunt.
I can't believe I didn't ask him about that. I interviewed those guys multiple times.
Yeah, that was interesting. But when you see the ranch, it looks like nothing. And over to the left and the right are horses and cow ranches. And there's not a lot of room. It's not like Skinwalker where you have 500 square acres?
Yeah, 500 acres, 480, 500, something like that. Yeah.
Over here, it's just, I think, 10, 15. It's not a lot. And I was very disappointed. The gate, when you go up to it's just 10 feet off the road. I mean, there's no allure for me to want to go back, really, to be honest with you. And I don't buy the guy's story. I think he's just using that ranch, Stardust, and he heard about Skinwalker, and I think he found a way he can make a buck. But he listened to my show once and sent me a message. He was angry that I was saying I thought he was faking it. Yeah, on Facebook. And then I said something back, and then he blocked me. But Brandon Fugel was just on Spaced Out Radio a couple of weeks ago. If you ever want to hear that interview,
definitely going to hear that. I'm writing it down as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
Spaced Out. That's Open Minds, isn't it?
No, that's Dave Scott from Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's my good friend. Yeah, Dave. I used to be on his network and everything, but Spaced Out Radio's taken off, man. Yeah, you should maybe have Dave on. He's got some experiences like you wouldn't believe. Bigfoot, spiritual stuff. The guy's just living in a place that's got this all around.
Bigfoot, that's another crazy topic. I never really was too crazy about Bigfoot. But now I'm starting to wonder that what if that is possibly another extraterrestrial, or what if that is another terrestrial that lives here? I don't know, but apparently people who see them all of a sudden have the high strangeness afterwards too. And a lot of people say there's crossover between them, Bigfoot, ghosts, and aliens. And just like the explanation about the Skinwalker Ranch of whether is it ET, whether is it ghost, whether is it demonic activity, whether is it interdimensional, and the answer was all of the above. Maybe it is all of the above. I honestly don't know. I'll tell you another theory I've entertained as far as aliens lately. What if they're us? What if they're literally us in the future coming back to see when we screwed up and change our course? Yeah.
Why would 9/11 have to happen?
I don't know. Why would World War II have to happen? Why?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. But if you look at what we originated from, and what's the next logical step? Well, we have this technology. We have more brains, right? We have higher intelligences. Well, essentially, you would have 50,000 years of evolution would maybe have bigger craniums and smaller bodies, because you wouldn't have to use as much muscle if technology is doing it for you. It's just something to throw out there. I have no idea. It's just a matter of what if and when. I think this is the generation where we're going to know more than probably ever in the past, just because more and more people are believing and finally talking, and the availability for information. But at the same time, we have to worry because there's so much BS out there that worries me. Everybody's out there, and if there is a lot of this counterintelligence, they're involved on all sorts of YouTube and internet and events and radio and guests. Richard Doty, look at him. How many Richard Doties are there that are still, doing the counterintelligence?
Now they're better than they ever were. Yeah. Yep. Oh my God. Well, I think we come from Mars. I'll tell you two things that really intrigue me. We had fur, and then we don't. We can't stay out in the sun. We get burnt after a certain amount of time. Our eyes hurt. We need sunglasses. We need clothes. You know what I mean? We're not indigenous. We're not like cows. We can't just walking around in our skin. Another thing is so what happened? Was it because a certain protein or a certain thing that was man found and ate, and it made them get really smart? Now all of a sudden we go from horses and cattle and farming and to going to space in a matter of 100 years.
Yeah.
50 years even. Yeah. I mean, it's just nuts where we went from in the 30s to where we are now. 100 years. That's crazy.
Even go back to, the Wright brothers to Apollo, right? That is
right. 50 years.
Years. That is bizarre that we have such a giant leap. And that begs the question, the iPhone, right? There is so much capability with these things that we wouldn't have thought 30 years. To me, Skynet is finally here. What is Skynet? It's Google. It's Facebook, right? It's all these giant tech companies that are constantly monitoring us.
They know everything.
Everything we do. I mean, every camera and microphone, they're always on every moment. Even though you don't have it on, we know they're listening. And you have these technologies that are, voice recognition and catching, words, as any of the words that are specific to what they're looking for, patterns, things like Edward Snowden talked about. We know it's being handled on massive levels, and this intelligence if it wasn't for Edward Snowden essentially leaking all this information, we probably would have never known how really we've been spied on for a long time.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I think since at least 20 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Since these phones, I think, because they can track everything you do. Funny thing is, I was just talking to Brent and Blake the other night, and I was talking. I said the word DSLR camera, and then we hang up, and I going through Facebook, and there it is, an ad for a DSLR camera right on my Facebook page.
Yeah, all the time. For instance, my phone will be near me, and a friend will say something that I've never talked about, never thought about. Next thing I know, I'll open, Google, and I'll type in like an S, and the whole word comes out. It's like, well, hold on. This isn't in my search history. This isn't even something I would think of, and that's what obviously starts the question of what these things are capable of. And remember, ever since FISA, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, came out, the FISA courts, that's when the mass surveillance really started. And I think the last figure was we have 36,000 drones over the U.S. alone. And recently, China underbid every competitor and bypassed the federal government and went directly to local police departments and sold them drones, or sometimes even gave them drones. Why? So they can spy on us. That's scarier.
Right. I know.
They want to take over us.
They do. They said they want to take over the world.
Yep.
And they actually said it.
They do. And they said it. You're absolutely right. And they don't think in terms of years. They think in terms of generations. Now, this is a plan they probably started thinking of 50 years ago. And whether it takes 10, 20, 30, 50 years, they're going to do it. And look at the way they're, this virus came out. Look at the way this, the election is happening, where they're, funneling money to the Biden camp and things like that. They're really, really trying to take over.
So before we go, we never finished. I wanted to ask you about Skinwalker. It's the Skinwalker Ranch. Did we finish talking about that? I mean, you said you wanted to go there, but what do you think? I mean, we know it's a sacred place, right? Sacred ground, I guess, around that whole area there, right?
Yeah, and apparently it's been documented for hundreds of years, going back to the American Indians that lived there, and then the first pioneers that crossed the area. I think it was the Spanish conquistadors wrote it in their journals about, seeing weird, anomalies like lights that would.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this is something that's been happening for a long time, and apparently it finally came to the attention of a billionaire to finally go out and hire a team of professionals to be there 24 hours, 7 days a week, and put the most expensive equipment to, look at everything. And you're right, he probably packed up and took the things with him, and Brandon is left to figure it out on his own. But he's got enough better equipment now than 20 years ago, then I'm sure he's probably capturing some better stuff. And they've been there long enough to where I'm sure they've seen and learned enough, but I don't think we're ever going to learn enough to, if certain dimensions are met, or what if that is a glimpse into the past? They talked about that giant wolf. Was it the dire wolf? Is that what it was, right?
Yeah.
What if it's a glimpse to another era or another dimension? What is this language that they're speaking about? Because apparently it is a language. It's not just, children speaking gibberish. It is a language. It's no known language. What if it's a glimpse into another planet? And another thing, you mentioned Mars earlier, right? What if this is a glimpse of Mars back when we were living there? And you know how you mentioned, why we come from there? I'll give you another reason that I think we also come from there. Is that I've heard that our cycles of time, of sleep and time, are better set to the moon, that's better set to Mars than to Earth. And, that's compelling stuff, and you're absolutely right. We've shed enough fur and changed enough to, even the oxygen here, we don't breathe 70% of the air that's full of, what's not oxygen. It just, you're right. We're not like cows, giraffes, or other things that, are here and able to live here.
Mars again.
Yeah.
First Floor Audio said it's called, I think, what do you say? Mars circadian rhythm is our true rhythm.
Yes. Thank you. That's the proper word I was looking for. Exactly.
That is weird because from what I heard, ladies, I don't know if it's true, but I think their cycle is based on Mars as well. 28 days, right? And that's what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but even they said that is part of the Mars circadian rhythm. I don't know, but it's weird for me to say that.
What about Buzz Aldrin when he said that when we start looking there, when we get there, we're going to find this? Was it Mars he talked about, not Moon? When he talked about this giant tower that is how many? Yeah.
It was on the moon Phobos.
Yeah, and what about, the pyramids on Mars?
Aren't
they aligned to the same way that we have in Egypt, which is aligned to the stars?
Sidonia, yeah, it's all signed. I think it's linked up to Orion's belt.
Yep.
Those 3 big stars in the middle there. And First Floor also said we were on Mars and was destroyed and then moved here. That's the circadian rhythm. I think that's true. What if a billion years ago we did live on Mars and the remaining came over here?
Yep.
I don't know, man. It just sounds right.
It's very possible. I mean, and remember in the 90s when we had that rock that came from Mars that was, launched from an asteroid hit or comet or whatever hit Mars and then launched it into the solar system, and then thousands of years went by and then it landed, I believe, was it
Antarctic?
Yeah. And then they found it, and then they possibly thought that it had microbes on it, and then the story was shut down. But for a few days, you remember Bill Clinton was talking about it. Carl Sagan was making the rounds. There's enough weird stuff there that once we actually get there, I wouldn't be surprised if we find remnants of stuff.
Well, those, I know it's a lot of pareidolia coming back from the Mars rovers and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, some of that stuff, like the Sphinx it looks like the Sphinx on Mars. I mean, that is real. I mean, yeah, eventually you may see that in pareidolia, but it's out there like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's just sticking up. I don't know. And then they've caught some weird looking humanoid things, even some what looks like little like motorcycles that float.
And what about how the rovers all of a sudden, they're dirty and then they're clean.
Clean. Yeah. The solar panels. And that one picture looked like a guy with an astronaut suit on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. What if they aren't even on Mars?
You know what? That it's very possible. It goes back to that whole thing about, was the moon landing staged? And so what if it is Arizona? Who knows, right? Because we are fed a bunch of lies. I remember several years ago, God, this must have been, I couldn't even tell you what year, 2007. I'm making things up here. Maybe 2010, right? I don't know the exact year. I was watching World News, David Meir, and they get breaking news. And right here, Edwards Air Force Base, I think it was Edwards or Norton, one of them right here in California. And they have this space drone that's been in orbit for 2 years, and it's landing. And it's, what is the XR-37B? I found the name recently. It's on YouTube if you searched it. Well, hold on a second. I don't remember ever hearing about a drone being launched. I don't remember anything about a rocket bringing a drone up there. I don't remember anything about us even having a space drone. And then all of a sudden we find out, oh, hey, it just landed after 2 years. There's enough clandestine stuff that's going on. When Trump said he's creating the Space Force, it wasn't being created, it was being released.
Right.
That's
much,
that's straight up. That's the case. It's it couldn't stay secret anymore, or it got big enough to where hey, now it's official.
Well, we had to do it. I think during this time where we were talking about Space Force, somebody said that Russia's had a Space Force since 95, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know. This is really, really reaching. David Wilcock, Corey Good, and
that's reaching. You're reaching.
Yeah, definitely reaching. When they're talking about Nazi Germany being on Mars in the 30s and having bases on moons, I don't know about that. I think it was Above Majestic was the documentary I recently saw, and they showed a depiction of what looked like, well, it wasn't it was just a artist rendering, but it was a swastika, but a base. It was I don't think that technology was there in the 30s. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, we were just into just making steel and doing all that, right? I mean, we have only been doing that for 20 years before that.
Yeah, we were just into cars, and we were just into flight, and
right.
We were using bullets, which had this is stuff that goes back to China from 800 AD, with the burning chemicals to do stuff, right? To launch rockets. That's what we were doing during World War II before we finally got to the atomic weapons. But that's basically, if you look at all the armaments in London, in Germany, in France, that's all it was. Guns and bombs.
We got to have you on again. We're going to talk forever. And I want to make sure we've got more juice for next time. So this was fun, man. I mean, I could talk to you for 2 more hours easily, I think, and we wouldn't even be tired. But thank you so much. You want to, if you could, tell everybody where we can find your show and anything else, channel, website. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is consistent with Dr. J Radio Live. That is the website. That is YouTube. Now, everything is on YouTube, all but I think 2013 and part of 2014, which I will get around to uploading. My site is being reformatted. It's there. It's available. Everyone can check it out. It goes back to the very beginning, but there's a new site being built, and the goal is to put archives. Now, all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they were all the same, but Twitter banned me for basically telling Pelosi to go to hell.
Yeah, no way. I can't believe he got banned for that.
Yeah, 39,000 followers gone in a second. Yep.
Oh, you're banned. That's not temporary. So a ban means you're done.
It's they said my account is suspended, and every time I go back to try to unlock it, it just says it won't let me even cancel and open another one. So I had to open up Dr. J Radio Live New, which has got no followers. So it's kind of a shame, but everything else, Instagram, Tumblr, Patreon, everything is Dr. J Radio Live.
So much fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. We'll do this
again.
Yeah,
it was a good time, man. So, and I was going to play a third phase video before, but I'm not. We're just going to head out. So I want to thank you, Dr. J. If you could just hold on, I'll talk to you briefly here. I'm going to remove you real quick and tell everybody, don't forget to go and visit the guy's place. Sign up. The guy has the best interviews He's talked to everybody in the field, pretty much. Yeah. So go check it out. Dr. J, thank you so much. And Third Phase, thank you for today. I'm going to yeah, guys, go to Third Phase, watch the video they put up. I'm going to get out of here, but thanks again. Super chatters, veterans, moderators, and newcomers. Thank you very much. We got up into the 70s tonight, and plus more than that with Twitter and Facebook. So thank you all. And we'll be back tomorrow night with new GUFON. Talk to you later. You guys, be careful. If you ain't looking up, you ain't looking out. But there was that other one I came up with too. I can't remember it. All right. See you later. Bye-bye.